Welcome to A Course in Miracles on a beautiful, beautiful day in Colorado. Let's give it up for us. We're cool. We're cool.
Gotta go now.
Different way. It's a time to look at life in a different way. It's a brand new day to look at life in a different way. Say what? What God is. Welcome to the Course in Miracles. Those of you coming in on Facebook Live, and those of you in the room, thank you for coming. Let you hear that. Companion. Constant companion. I choose love. I choose joy. I choose joy. Because God is. God is. Welcome to the Course in Miracles on Facebook Live. I'm Earl Purdy. And I want to jam on God today. I think I have to jam on God today. I think it's time to jam on God today. I think it's time to jam on love today. Because God is love and love is God. When I'm talking about God, I'm talking about love. When I talk about God, I'm talking about love. When I talk about God, I'm talking about love. God is. Welcome to A Course in Miracles. You know you don't have to believe it, you don't have to believe it, you don't have to accept it, you don't have to welcome it. Some of it may be hard to believe, hard to believe, hard to believe. Some of it may be quite startling, but you are not asked to analyze it to death. If you use it, you will see that the ideas are true, but you have to use it to see that the ideas are true. This is Reverend Yolanda, my good friend Reverend Yolanda. I love to watch Reverend Yolanda sing. It's a trip. No matter what's going on, I'm going to choose joy. No matter what's going on, I'm going to choose joy. God is. God is. God is love. God is love. He is a brand new day, looking life in a different way. Today is a brand new day, looking life in a different way. God is good. God is love. like to give it up anyway. Even if you don't want to, we're going to do it anyway. Welcome to A Course in Miracles. Let me get my little stuff set up here first for a second. Okay, so I can follow people online. All right, today we're going to talk about the development of trust. And it's on page 9 in the teacher's manual. Those of you online, don't forget, if you're online, don't forget to comment, share the video, like. If you're here, we're doing it live, we're doing it in real time so that you can feel the energy and also communicate with your mighty companions. And so let's do it. Let's do it. I know that sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes the biggest challenge that I have on the spiritual path is trusting. Yes. Not to even mention y'all. we won't even get into that, you know what I'm saying? Our brothers and sisters, but you know. So today we're going to talk about trust, and it's on page 9. And it says that trust is the foundation on which your ability to fulfill your function lasts. It rests on your ability to trust. So your function, what is your function? Your function is to be a conduit for love on the planet, a conduit for light on the planet, a conduit for truth on the planet. It's not what you do for a living. That's what you do. You're not on the planet to do what you do for a living. Yay. You're not on the planet to do what you do for a living. That's right. That wasn't why you were born. You were not born, according to Course in Miracles, to do what you do for a living. Okay? You were born to be the extension of love. You were born to be a human embodiment of the divine. You were born to reflect the truth. You were born to recognize who you really are and to remove every block to the recognition of who you really are as a spiritual being. The things you do in the world, that's your lab to practice. So whatever you do in the world, that's just your lab. And the Course in Miracles is saying that this is the foundation on which their ability to fulfill their function rests. Perception is the result of learning. So what does that mean? It means that the way you see things is a result of the way you learn to see things. You see things the way you learn to see things. The way you are seeing things is the way that you learned to see things. In fact, perception is learning. So perception is synonymous with learning. So when you say that you're perceiving something, you're learning something. Every time you see anything, you're seeing what you learned. I can give you a quick example of that. If you're looking at this, you call it a shirt. Why? Green shirt. Because you learned. You call this the color green. Why do you call it the color green? That's why because you learned it. If you see me as a man, why are you doing that? Because you learned it. If you see me as an African-American man, why are you doing that? Because you learned it. Right. So everything you perceive is a learning. Everything you're looking at is an interpretation. Everything you're looking at is an interpretation. The interpretation that you give things determine how you feel about things. The interpretation that you give things determines how you feel about things. So perception is interpretation. Interpretation is the result of learning. How you feel comes from your interpretation. So that means how you feel is not coming from the situation or circumstance you're going through. Where is it coming from? What you learned, how to look at the situation that you're going through, the interpretation. So the Course says, perception is learning because cause and effect are never separated. Now, you are a demonstrator of love. That's a teacher of God. And a teacher of God is a demonstrator of love. The Course in Miracles teaches that a teacher is a demonstrator, not a talker. Okay, so a teacher is a demonstrator. You are demonstrating if you're a teacher. And you are supposed to be a teacher of God. That means you're supposed to be a teacher of love. You're supposed to be a demonstrator of love, which we could do a great job of if we had the slightest idea of what love is. Yeah, we would be really awesome if we ever really had the slightest idea what love is. Okay, we know what specialness is. We know how to treat people special. Conditional love. So we know conditional love. We know specialness, but according to the Course in Miracles, we don't have the slightest idea what real love is. Because real love is equally given to everyone equally. Real love is totally inclusive and there's no exclusion in it. That's the opposite to the way we do it, which is what? Love for us is bargains and exclusion and separation, right? There's some people I love, some people I don't. If you do love me, you better exclude everybody else from your love but me. So what we call love is just treating people special. A fear-based mind can do that. A fear-based mind can judge and choose people it's going to give attention to and judge and choose who is not going to give attention to. So what we call love is specialness. I want to say that again. What we call love is specialness. So anybody that you singled out for love or specialness, they should become your automatic practice partner to learn what real love is with. You single them out for, and we must stop making people work so hard to get our dysfunctional love. It's kind of ridiculous how hard we make people work for our dysfunctional love. It's really kind of a crime. You're going to work this hard, and I don't really know how to love you no way, you know what I'm saying? And on top of that, you add all the sexual guilt I got, and I'm not really party. I'm not really party for you at all.
Well, you know what love is sex.
You know, what's that?
That's what what love is sex.
That's
not what I thought for a long time.
Yes, me too.
If you love me, you're going to give it to me.
That's right. That was a goal. Until you realize that you pay a lot for a very little.
Oh, yeah.
One of these days you kind of go to, let me do a cost analysis of sex. Let's see here. I have to do that and that and that and that and that for a little bit of that. Okay. Might want to reconsider.
That's special because it's so special.
But that's special. And sex is the ultimate symbol of specialness. You are the most special person in the world because I let parts of my body connect with parts of yours. Okay. So it says, the demonstrators of love, the teachers of God have trust in the world. Why would you have trust in the world if you were a teacher of God? He says, because the teacher of God has learned that the world isn't governed by the laws or the rules that the world made up. So a teacher of love knows that the world really isn't being ruled by the rules we made up. An enlightened being knows that the world is governed by a power that's in them, but it's not of them. I know that the world is being governed by a power that's in all of us, but we don't create that power. And so it's this power that's in us that's not of us that keeps all things safe. So what is it that keeps all things safe? The power that's in us, but not of us. So it's through this power. What power? The power that's in us, but not of us. That the teachers of God look on a forgiven world through this power that's in me, but not of me. I look on a forgiven world. What is a forgiven world? The Course in Miracles teaches that forgiveness is true perception, correct perception. It's not overlooking somebody, what you think somebody did to you, because you're on such a high level of consciousness. That is not forgiveness. You did something to me and I'm trying to overlook it. It's not forgiveness. Forgiveness is correctly perceiving every situation in my life. So a demonstrator of love looks on a world correctly. That's a forgiven world. So how do I know I'm looking at the world correctly? I know that I'm looking at the world correctly because I'm not holding the world responsible for what I'm experiencing within myself. So a person looking at the world correctly is a person that's not in victim consciousness. It's a person that's taking responsibility for the way they feel and see things. First paragraph of that. Any questions about that paragraph? I'll say it again. Trust is the foundation. What you see is the result of what you've learned. You start trusting the world because you are trusting the laws that are not of the world.
Oh, thank God.
That's why I got into metaphysics and higher consciousness when I was in my 20s, because I was sick of being told because of the color of my skin I was going to have to be the victim of everything that was happening to me in the world. You know, and it looked like people had to like me before I'd be okay. And so I got into metaphysics and New Thought because it was teaching universal principles that work regardless of race, creed, color, sex, any of those things. So there are laws that work to allow you to have a prosperous, joyful life that have nothing to do with what man does. But you have to take the time to learn what those rules are and apply them to your life. The ego, which is the part of the mind that believes that it's separate and on its own, tries to do everything in its power to distract you from spiritual study. I said it to Earl again. Earl, there's part of you that's going to do everything in its power to keep you from focusing on God and focusing in on the truth. And what it's going to use most of all is relationships, health, or money. Those are the three main distractions. Either I'm in a relationship that's occupying all my attention to the point that I can't focus on God, Or I have a financial situation that's keeping me from focusing on God. Or I have a health situation that's keeping me from focusing on God. Or I got a job situation that's keeping me from focusing on God. All these things can be used by your ego to distract you from your spiritual focus. Okay. Your ego is not something that's happening to you. Your ego is something you're doing to yourself. It's like you telling yourself what to tell yourself. That's all the ego is. It's a voice in your head that you are telling yourself to tell yourself something. Okay? Okay, so any questions about anything that in longer lines of what I talked about? Man.
Just a comment that this power that is
Would
within...
anybody mind giving me some water?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you, brother. Yes, okay.
This power that is within me but is not of me is I think it's the divine plan that I am a part of and that I have an essential role in completing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We were talking about last week's class that it was self-concept versus self. We think we're the image of ourselves that we made up. It says we think we are who we think we are. And we think we are who we made ourselves up to be. And then we look at the world through that lens. So when most people tell you who they are, they're just telling you the concept of themselves that they have, that they've learned from the world. The Course in Miracles, thank you, brother. The Course in Miracles says one of the easiest ways to tell when you have faulty information is that you're miserable.
Yeah.
It's like it's not like rocket science here. If you're depressed and unhappy most of the time, and you're constantly seeking outside of yourself, and you're afraid, you have faulty information that you're using to govern your experience by. A smart person is going to say, okay, then I need information that's not faulty. And I need to also realize that I have been giving myself faulty information since the day I was born, so I should not expect a complete transformation of that thought system overnight. There's McDonald's, but there's not Mac Enlightenment. Okay, there's not Mac Truth. You're not going to undo a lifetime's worth of programming by tuning into the truth every now and then, and then the most of the time focusing on the stuff you always focus on. Then get mad at God because you think God isn't coming through for you, but you are not really devoted. You're distracted, right? But you're still cute and innocent, and hopefully you'll still have sex. So
I love how these teachings so gently call me out on my bullshit.
yes,
Like, I love it.
But it would take a person that's becoming awake to want to be called out on this stuff. Most people would rather be right than happy. And most people's happiness comes from being in denial and not really telling the truth about their own egos. Most people are nice people that look like crack and stuff is happening to. They disconnect how they're connected to the crack and stuff that seems to be happening. They're just all these nice people in the world that crack and stuff is happening to. And all the crack and stuff is just their unconscious belief systems being reflected back to them that they don't know that they have. That the world is a three-dimensional mirror of what's going on in your unconscious, subconscious mind. So if you really want to know what's going on in your mind, open your eyes and look at the life you live, the people that's in it, and the environment that you inhabit most of the time. That is your mind. So right now when I say that, you feel great.
Yeah.
You go, well, I was doing pretty good. I got some pretty cool people. And then some of you went, oh, what the hell? Then, you still innocent too. You just need to get on it. You just need to get on it, all right? One of the surefire ways to not find what you're looking for is to look for it where it's not located. So people do that with love. They want the people that don't want them. You know what I'm saying? They don't realize that happiness is within, so they look without, So the Course in Miracles says, when this power of God has once been experienced, what happens? It's impossible to trust your own petty strength again. But once I feel the power of God operating in my life, I won't even trust my ego anymore. Who would attempt to fly with the tiny wings of a sparrow when the mighty power of an eagle has been given them? There was a girl out walking the park. I was looking at this nature show the other day. The chick was out walking her dog, and the eagle swooped down and picked it up. And then, but then she screamed, and the eagle dropped it. I bet you that'd be trippy, wouldn't it? You walk in your little silo about that big, and then the eagle going, oh, snack time. But what are you doing in a world where an eagle will swoop down and eat your pet? Have you thought about that? Why are you in a world that you're afraid of nuclear war? Why are you in a world you're afraid to walk alone in some parts of town? Why are you in a world that you have so much fear? The Course in Miracles says, why don't we ask ourselves these questions? What are you doing in a world that you have any fear? Why? You know, and it's because I have attack thoughts, I have fear thoughts, I have guilty thoughts, I have separation thoughts, I'm looking out for myself to the expense of everybody else's thoughts. I have incorrect thinking. That's all. And so the Course says, and who would place their faith in the shabby offerings of the ego, which is their fearful mind, when the gifts of God are laid before them? What is it that induces you to make this shift? I'm going to do this in plain language, in a conversational way. You'll hear this better if you listen to it like I'm having a conversation with you, than if you were listening to this like you were in a college class analyzing what I'm saying. Okay? So what is it that's going to induce you to make this shift from fear to love? What is it that's going to induce you? Notice the word says there's induced labor, and then there's induced going for the truth and love. What is it that's going to induce you to do that? Well, it's the development of trust. Y'all ready to hear about the development of trust?
Absolutely.
Okay. But I'm going to tell you what stages you're going to go through when you develop trust. To make this make more sense to you and be easier to stay focused, think of a situation in your life that you need to develop some trust around. Okay? If you make it practical, it's easier to stay conscious. Okay? And also, I'm going to phrase a lot of this in questions because questions hook the mind. Statements put it to sleep. So, what is it that you must learn? What would be your first stage? He says, well, first, I'm going to say you. First, you must go through what might be called a period of undoing. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to have a period. Okay? And it's going to be a period of undoing. That doesn't have to be painful, but people usually experience the period of undoing as painful. I say it again. You're going to go through a period of undoing. It doesn't have to be painful, but it's going to be painful. Why? It says it because it's usually so experienced, right? Why? Well, the reason why it's painful is because it's going to seem as if things are being taken away from you. Okay, the first stage is going to look like I might lose my job, I might get laid off, my partner might decide to go. You know, things may look like they're being taken away from me in the period of undoing. Because it's rarely understood initially that the reason why the thing is leaving your life is because its lack of value is merely being recognized. When you no longer value pain, suffering, lack, attack, things that are not fulfilling, and you go, I'm ready to have a fulfilling life, then everything in your life that you're perceiving as unfulfilling, that's not serving that purpose, will start to leave your experience. Okay? But what's really happening is that you're seeing the lack of value of it. See, it's not valuable to me anymore to be in relationships that we're constantly processing and arguing. I don't have time. I'm too old. No. You know what I'm saying? I don't have 10 years to get you to settle me with me and me. I'd be dead by then. I'm too old. When you're in your 20s and 30s and 40s, you can waste 10 years on a person trying to change them. When you're in your 60s, you're like, I'm showing up, this is who I am, take me or leave me, baby. But we will not be processing. Okay? I blew most of my 20s working on my relationships. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You know you should be gone. You should have been gone. You never should have been in there in the first place. But you're sticking it out, trying to get them saying this one little anthem. If you were different, I'd be happy. If you were different, I'd be happy. If you were different, I'd be happy. No, 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 if you... Then you go to counseling. What do you say? If you were different, I'd be happy. If you were different, I'd be happy. If you were different, I'd be happy. Then you go talk to your friends and you go, if they were different, I'd be happy. If they were different, I'd be happy. That's the biggest waste of time you can ever do. I'm telling you, cut it out. You will not change somebody, especially if they don't see how it's going to benefit them. They're not going to change because you will like it.
Yeah.
Okay? Because it's going to make you feel better. You got to show people how they're going to benefit through whatever you're offering. Okay? And you got to offer them something more than your body. I keep saying it because the poets keep saying, that's the great gift. You know, you're going to get my body. You're going to spend time with my body. Our bodies are going to do stuff together. Our bodies are going to go places together. Yeah, to a shrink. Yeah. Especially if it's not any love happening. Okay? Try not to lose your sense of humor. Okay, because the Course in Miracles says we get into hellacious situations because we forget to laugh. And we just get so serious about everything. Let me tell you how your movie ends. Okay, I'm going to tell you the end. I'm going to do a spoiler. This is the way your movie ends, okay? It ends. This is the last scene. Okay, just imagine you just walked into a movie theater. This is the last scene of your life. And you come in just when the credit says, and they lived happily ever after.
Yay!
Okay, that's how it turned. That's how your movie turned out. All right. Now you're sitting there seeing what happened until it turned out that way. It's like if you were still sitting there, you know how it turns out. Now you're seeing what the characters went through you in order for you to be happy ever after. That's what you're experiencing right now. You're seeing everything that you went through to have a happily ever after. If you look at time that way, you'll be more patient about the things that are happening in your life, because now you know everything that happened was part of the plan for you to be happy ever after. But there's also room for improvising.
Thank God.
Okay? You can't go, I don't know, maybe I'll reconsider going over the cliff in my relationship. I think maybe I'll do it differently. Hold, let's have a rewrite. Hold it. Bye. Hello.
Yeah.
Okay. All right? Because grown people ought to be able to work anything out if they want peace with each other. A radically immature person cannot give themselves peace in any relationship. Two mature people can talk things out. They can set a goal and they can work toward the achievement of that goal together. They can agree not to attack each other. They can agree not to blame each other. They can agree not to go off on each other. How do I know that? Because I have relationships like that. You do not have to go through hell all the time with people. I'm sorry, it is not necessary. Okay? So the Course in Miracles says what happens is what? It looks like things are being taken away, but they're not really being taken away. What's really happening is you're realizing they're no longer valuable. Then it says, how can the lack of value be perceived unless you're in a position where you must see things how? In a different light or a different way. So you have to be in a position where you can see things in a different way. But you may not be at a point at which you can make the shift entirely internally. Like when it talks about you got to change from within and you have to change your way of looking at things. You may not be to the point that you can change your internal perception of things because of the way you feel about some things and the way you've been affected by it, right? So the Course says if you won't change on the inside, if you will not change on the inside, it says the plan will sometimes call for changes in what seem to be the external situation. So if I keep on not giving myself happiness, not giving myself peace, not loving myself and valuing myself, and I won't do the work to change my mind about myself, then there's going to be some things that start happening in my external situation, probably in the form of a crisis, in order to get me to the point I'll get sincere about changing my mind. Crisis is just God banging on your hood. You ignore it. You ignore the intuitive hint. You ignore the voice telling you you need to do something different. You ignored all the synchronicities of the people in your life, feeling like you need to make a change, but you still didn't do it. Now you're dealing with one physical crisis after another physical crisis in some way, so that you finally go, there must be a better way. I'm determined to see things differently, and I'm going to really and truly commit myself to that. So what you do with every change that's happening in your external circumstance, what should you tell yourself about those changes? All changes, these changes are helpful. So whatever change that's happening in your life right now, declare it as helpful. Even if it's something you are alarmed about. The reason why you can tell yourself it's helpful and it be true is that your feelings about things do not determine the truth of them. Yeah. So something could be helpful, but you don't think it is. Okay, so don't think that you got to always agree with something for it to be true. Mm-hmm. You could go, this is the worst thing that ever happened to me, but it still could be the most helpful thing that's ever happened to you. And sometimes when you look back on situations today, you'll say, I'm glad I lost that job. I'm glad that relationship broke up. I'm glad I went through that illness. I'm glad the thing that you were so upset about, you look back now and say, that was a real turning point in my life. And because that happened, I took myself on the path that was the best path I could have been on. Why don't you just go ahead and do that now since you're going to do it later? Okay, since you're going to do it later, why don't you just go ahead and do it now and say, I'm not going to deny I'm upset, but I'm still going to say these changes are helpful. He says, when you say that every change that you're going through is helpful, when you've learned that every change in your life is helpful, then you go to the second stage. So the first stage is an undoing when it looks like things are taken away because you no longer see that it's valuable to go through that anymore. And if you keep screwing around, you're going to have things happen on the outer that's going to force you to change. And when you've learned that that change is helping you, you go to the next stage of trust. So how can we go to the next stage of trust? By saying everything that I'm going through is helpful. Okay? Any questions or comments about that paragraph? I'm going to try to get through this because it's such a powerful section. Everybody clear about that?
Yes.
So you could practice what we're saying right now by saying the changes that I'm going through right now are helpful. Okay? Next, you're going to go through what's called a period of sorting things out. Again, I'm going to paraphrase this. Sometimes it's difficult to sort things out because now you've learned that everything in your life is helpful and all the changes are helpful. Now you've got to decide everything that's happening in your life based on if it's helping you or hampering you. Okay, so the next stage, you got to sort things out. So is this relationship helping me or hampering me? Is this job helping me or hampering me? Is this perception helping me or hampering me? Is this situation helping me or hampering me? How can you tell whether a situation is helping you or hampering you? Anything that's hampering you would be anything that you focus in on that you can apply to every situation in your life as they come up. In other words, a really helpful perspective would be, for instance, I'm the one that's determining the feelings I have about everything I see. That would be something I could use in every situation. I feel conflict. I'm determined to see this differently. I could use that in every situation. To say whatever anybody is doing is a call for love, a call for God. I could say that in every situation. So from a metaphysical, spiritual perspective, a helpful point of view is a truth that you can use in any and every situation that comes up. For instance, I don't care what situations Earl Purdy is in. Earl Purdy is teaching himself that he's the one that's interpreting it and therefore determining how he feels about it, regardless of the situation. Learning that's hampering me would be a learning that's telling me I have to get each one of you to change and act a certain way, then I'll feel good. See, that's a hampering situation. So anytime you make your happiness dependent on somebody else's behavior, you are hampering your peace. Every time you make your happiness dependent on somebody else being a certain way, that's a hampering idea that doesn't help you develop trust. Because for me to trust something, it has to be consistent, doesn't it? You trust people that you see as being consistent. You don't trust people that every time you see them, they're acting completely different. You trust people more that you feel like there's some consistency in the way that they express themselves. So you want a truth that you can use consistently. You don't want truths that only apply to special situations. Sure. So the Course in Miracles says, because you value what is really valueless, and what is really valueless? Anything that I can't use in every situation. So he says you won't generalize the lesson for fear of loss and sacrifice. Let me give you an example. If you're in a relationship and the truth says love is freedom, then you are willing to apply the idea of freedom in every area of your life other than your relationship. Okay, so why won't you apply the truth there? He says, because you're afraid of loss. You're afraid of loss and sacrifice. You know, if giving is how I receive, I'm willing to give you a ride home, but I'm not willing to give you $100. You know what I'm saying? Because I think if I do that, I've sacrificed and I've lost. So I think giving is good in some situations, but I don't think giving is good in every situation. Yeah. So the Course is saying we don't generalize what we learn because there are certain areas that if we think we practice the truth, we'll lose. Does that make sense? Okay. So it takes great learning. What is great learning? Well, it takes great learning to understand what? It takes great learning to understand all things, all events, all encounters, and all circumstances are helpful. You got to have great learning to believe everything you're going through right now is helping you. Everything you're going through right now is helping you. Everything you are going through right now is helping you, Earl. Everything you're going through right now is helping me. Okay. And then it says it's only to the extent to which they are helpful that any degree of reality should be accorded to them in this world of illusion. So My relationship with you is only real as it's helpful to me and you. If it's helpful to us, it's real. If it's not helpful to us, it's not real. Got it? See the simplicity of it? That's what drives us crazy. Like I'm trying to decide whether or not the relationship I have is helping me. Is this relationship helping me practice and remember love and truth? Is this relationship helpful to my peace? Is this relationship helpful to my sanity? Does this relationship have real communication in it? Or are we just joining bodies to keep the minds apart? Yes.
So everything is helpful and everything is neutral?
Everything is
Talk to me
helpful
about that.
and everything is neutral. It's helpful depending on how you look at it.
My perspective.
It's all neutral.
Helpful on your perspective.
Yeah. It's helpful to me depending on what I see in it and how I value it and how I interpret it. Or not. Like you're neutral. So I could either get myself peace with you, or I could get myself conflict with you. But you are neutral in the sense that I'm giving you all the meaning that you have for me. The first lesson in the Course in Miracles workbook is nothing I see means anything. It freaks people out because they're supposed to look around the room and everything they look at say, that chair doesn't mean anything, that wall doesn't mean anything, that carpet, then you see your little child and you go, ah! I can't say my child doesn't mean anything. Well, your child doesn't mean anything to most people. So your child has meaning to its grandmama and its friend. And in other words, you're the one giving the child meaning. You know, the earthquake happened. It didn't happen in my neighborhood. I feel sorry about it, but I'm not been out of shape. I'm going to the movie. Right?
Yeah.
But it's a different thing for the people that's in it. They're giving it an entirely different meaning. You see, so it's an event, but everybody's had different reactions to it, right?
Sure.
You'd have a different reaction to it if that was your child in the rubble. You see what I'm saying? So I'm never really impressed with people who can practice the truth about my stuff. Truth students are really good at practicing the truth about your stuff. Like when you're devastated, they go, well, it's an illusion. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a call for love. That change was helpful. You want to say, I'm knocking you upside your head right now. That would be helpful if you. Because you're quoting that stuff to me, but you don't have any kind of personal investment in any of it. So that doesn't impress me. Now, if your house is burned down, and then you say that change was helpful, that was a blessing from God, I feel totally centered because I'm an unlimited being and I know something better is going to come to me, I'm impressed. But if I tell you that happened to me, and then you say those things, I'm not that impressed. Because you're saying it because you're not personally involved in those cases. You follow what I'm saying? So you're really when you can practice the truth on you, then be impressed. It's easy for me to say I surround you in white light people in Mexico because I don't know anybody in Mexico. But could I say that when it's my son? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I've had issues and things that happened to me with my own children that it's a different ballgame. Why? Because they're special. Your child is very special to you, right? Okay. So anything that's special to you can give you two things, a great amount of pleasure and a great amount of pain. You can count on it. If it's special, it can give you both at your request. You can just count on it. Okay? If it's not special, it doesn't affect you emotionally.
Totally.
So now you know the secret of not being hurt. You don't make anybody special. What you do is you love them. And if you love them, you free them. And if you free them, you're asking for guidance about how to relate to them. And you listen to what Holy Spirit tells you to do with them. So love is not you acting out my script. Love is not you got to act out the way I want you to act out. The reason why I'm saying that is because that's what I'm working on, really learning to let people be. Okay? The third stage that you go through. Anybody got the second stage? The second stage is what? I've got to ask myself, is this helping me or hampering me? I got to sort things out now. The next stage is the teacher of God must go through, it's called a period of relinquishment. If relinquishing something is interpreted as giving up something that you really desire, then it's going to engender a lot of conflict. If I think, I'm giving you just some little simple examples. Like if being healthy is going to call me, I think it's going to call for me to give up eating meat. Then I'm going to see the period of relinquishment because I've sorted out what I think is best for me with enormous conflict because I think I'm giving up something that's desirable. So whenever you think you're giving up something that you don't want to give up, that's when you go through conflict. He says, few teachers of God escape this distress completely. So he tells us again, you're probably going to go through the distress of thinking that the truth is asking you to give up something you don't want to give up yet, which is what? You're thinking you're in control of stuff. And that everything has to act out your script. That's what most people call my creative visualizations, my ambitions, and my goals. It's the script that I've given everybody in my life for what they should do to make me happy. I've come up with what should make me happy. I want all of you to do the things I want you to do to make that happen, even though I didn't ask you if you would. Okay, I got a way. I want you to act, and you and you and you. Okay. So the Course in Miracles says, there is, however, no point in sorting out what's valuable from what's not unless you take the next obvious step. What is the next obvious step when you've sorted out what's really valuable and what's not? You let go of what's not valuable. It's like when you're getting ready to move and you're sorting out everything in your house. You sort out what you want to keep, and you don't take the stuff you don't want with you to your house, do you? You get rid of it, and the only thing you have conflict about getting rid of is the sweater you still want. Right? So if you're giving up something that's desirable, then you got conflict. If you're letting go of what you want to let go of, there is no conflict. So if I really want to let go of my ego, if I really want to let go of my guilt, if I really want to let go of my loneliness, if I really want to let go of my lack, if I really want to let go of my separation from God and separation from love, it would not cause me any conflict. The reason why the spiritual path is hard is because I don't want to do it, and I think if I do it, it's not going to benefit me, and I'm going to lose something. That's why it seems like it's a chore to study and a chore to read and a chore to come to a class. It's because you don't believe it's going to get you what you want. What you believe is going to get you what you want is what you're doing the rest of the time. Which you know doesn't work because you're miserable.
Right.
But you think if you do what doesn't make you happy long enough, then it works. If you know what I'm saying, if I try to start my car with a flashlight on the 500th time, it's going to start my car. You know that's not true. You can do it 1,000 times, a flashlight's not going to start your car. Well, the Course teaches us that that's the way we approach stuff. We don't change what we do. We just think we're doing the wrong thing with the wrong person. So we take the wrong attitude and try to choose somebody else that we can do it with. It's like me having a script of how you should treat me and you should smack me upside my head. And then I hand you the script of you should smack me upside my head. You smack me and then I go, oh, you hurt me. I know what I need to do to keep from being hurt. I'm going to give her the script that you should smack me upside the head. And then she goes, and you go, huh, you're horrible. I'm going to now give you the script. And he says, that's what we do. We take erroneous attitudes and perceptions. We think we're doing it with the wrong people. But it's the script that we're handing them is what's hurting us. So we think we haven't found the right person to do the wrong thing with. That never works. When you start to wake up to your spiritual awareness, you will be appalled at how simple the truth is and how complicated a part of your mind has made it to prolong your suffering. Because complexity keeps a person from going ahead and doing the simple things that would make the change. So when you teach people simple truth and they're adults, there's a tendency for them not to value it or spend any time on it because they're ready to analyze and make things complicated. And you're not making things complicated because it would be dumb of God to make stuff complicated. It would be dumb of the infinite intelligence of the universe to make everything complicated. You would get something done faster if it was simple and you was asking somebody to do it who could do it and want to do it. So I try to ask people to do things that they want to do. So in all my relationships, I say, if that's what gives you peace, I'd like you to do it. If it doesn't give you peace, we cool. Because it's not like I'm not going to experience it because you don't want to do it. It just means the person that would naturally want to do it will show up. And so then it'll still happen. But the problem is I decided you should be the person. And that's where I messed up. Where did you mess up, Earl? When I decided who was supposed to give me what I wanted. Rather than just asking for what I wanted and ask the universe to have it come to me in the easiest way for it to get to me. That's not what I do. I walk in the room and I go, I want you. And then I do everything possible to get you, whether you want me or not. So you can have anything you want when you ask for the content. You're going to slow yourself down when you decide on the form. You can say, I want to experience the content of a loving relationship. Spirit knows exactly who is your perfect match. They will be sent to you in your life to learn lessons of love together. and before you know it, it's happening. But the minute you go, it has to be you. You know, even if you're running away, then that's when you mess up every time. But the part of you that doesn't love you, that is its one requirement for anything that you should seek for, is that it's not available. That's the ego always wants you to go after what's not available. Who doesn't want to give it to you, where it's not located. Whew. So that means if you're loving to a person who doesn't love themselves, they'll never recognize you, won't be interested in you, and you won't turn them on. So you're guaranteed, if you're a person that's really, really loving, that people who don't like themselves won't want you. Okay? They won't be interested in you. You're probably going to be put in the friend zone if you do. Okay? If you're a nice guy, you go into the back of the line. Okay? Unless you're talking to a woman, for instance, who has learned to value herself. And then she'll immediately recognize a man that's valuing her and herself, and she will be attracted to him. But if she got issues that she's not facing, she'll think of herself as being really intelligent and spiritual, but still wants the same joker that's rejecting her. Which is her way of knowing she hasn't changed as much as she thinks she has, and neither has he. And so they've just given you a lesson in where your mind really is. Not so that you can beat yourself up, but so that you can start moving in the right direction. And most especially ask yourself, who's showing up in your life right now, giving you love, and you are ignoring it and not really noticing it. Okay. I know. Did you hear me, Talisha?
Alicia in the house.
Okay, I'm going to finish this paragraph. I love A Course in Miracles. Like I said, when the class is about over and people are ready to rush out, I haven't just get warmed up and really want to hear it.
Let's keep going.
You know. Yeah. Because I'm tired of suffering. I'm tired of going through a lot of pain and conflict. I've gone through enough in my life. I'm done. I'm done. So the Course in Miracles says, there's no point in sorting out the valuable from the valueless unless you take the next obvious step, which is what? Letting it go. What's no longer valuable. What is it that's no longer valuable? What's not valuable is something that slows down your peace and your love. And the Course says, therefore, the period of overlap is a period in which the teacher of God feels called upon to sacrifice their own best interests on behalf of truth. It looks like this book is asking me to sacrifice my own best interests. And, okay, here's a great example the Holy Spirit just told me. Okay, in other words, you may think it's in your own best interest for you to be in charge of your life on your own with your plans. So the truth is saying you need to learn how to trust and surrender in a higher power. So now you're full of a lot of conflict. Why? Because you think you not being in charge is sacrificing your own best interests. Because you've already decided what's supposed to make you happy. Does that make sense to everybody? I've already decided. So the truth is saying, no, Purdy, that's the problem, is that you're deciding and you don't know the whole picture. So you need to start to learn how to live your life by guidance rather than your plans. So therefore, this truth is saying you should trust a God that you don't really trust in. So now I'm in conflict because I really don't want to give up me being in charge of everything. So now this seems like this is engendering enormous conflict. The Course says you haven't realized as yet how wholly impossible such a demand would be. What demand? The truth would never ask you to give up your own best interests for your own happiness. Something that loves you. If I started to go out with somebody and they told me I had to get rid of my female friends, they gone. It's like, I'm getting rid of you. Be quiet, because nobody that loves me would tell me to separate from people who love me, just because, especially just because they're somebody of the same gender you are. How unconscious and asleep can you be? But people do that all the time. It's seen as natural. You're now with me, you should not have any male friends. I'm the one. Yeah. Right. You see that all the time. That's an unconscious, fearful, insecure person. So therefore, I hope what you're getting is worth it. Really. Well, I'll tell you when it would be worth it. If I'm that way and I met somebody else that was that way, and so we both had the same issues, they don't want me to go see having other friends of the opposite sex, and I don't want them to have any friends. So we're going to get along because we got both on the same level of fear. So we'll probably get along pretty good. So don't be a fearful person wanting to be with a person that's eons ahead of you in consciousness, because you're going to be scared to death all the time. It's better to be with somebody at least as crazy as you are, so that y'all are working on similar issues together, that y'all are trying to go past stuff. You don't want some, hanging out with Jesus would give you serious inferiority complex. He's walking on water, you know what I'm saying, and you can barely walk on the sidewalk. So it's not exactly, you want to have somebody somewhere in your range. Does that make sense, everybody? I keep asking because I know I'm saying a lot of stuff that we could do, but we don't do it. Right? But then some of you are. It says, when you do finally give up what's valueless, he says you're going to learn that where you anticipated grief, you're going to find a happy lightheartedness. And where you thought something was being asked of you, you're going to find out you're going to receive a gift. So when you finally do let go of the thing that's not for your own best interest, you're going to find that there's one gift you're going to discover is all the friends that were there that you could have spent time with while you were lost in your distraction. Right? Whatever that distraction is. You know, my friends used to see me between relationships. If I got in a relationship, none of them saw me anymore until it didn't work out. Then it didn't work out. All of a sudden, they were valuable again. And anybody, can you feel me? Yeah. While I was busy being distracted, I didn't have time for you. But a friend knows that's all right because we all do it. See, a friend is going to be somebody that's going to let you do what you need to do, and when you're ready to join again, they're ready to join back with you. But the reason why they were so patient with you is because in the meantime they were having a good time. It's easy to wait when you're partying like a big dog. You know what I'm saying? It's like while you right now, you know, maybe I'm not in your experience, right? And you need to have the teaching learning situation that you're going through. That's beautiful. But I would be more bothered if I wasn't having a good time in your absence. So I'm going to have a really good time, and I'm going to have as much love as I can. And then when you're ready to connect again, let's connect again, because you didn't do anything wrong by following your heart. That's not something for me to give you a grievance about because you did what you thought was best for you, because I would like you to do the same thing if I decide to do the same thing. Yeah. See how simple that is? Wow. But it's a decision you make. I had to decide to be nice. I just had to decide to start being sane. I just had to decide to stop attacking people, blaming people, going off on people. It was just a friggin' decision, and I thought it was so much more complicated than that. It's deep. It's deep. So you're going to find a gift that's bestowed on you as soon as you let go of the things that hamper your peace. All right? Now you're going to go through a period of settling down. What is the period of settling down? It says it's a quiet time when you rest a while. How do you rest? In reasonable peace. So what do you do while you're resting in reasonable peace, Holy Spirit? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to consolidate your learning. Now, how do you consolidate your learning, Holy Spirit? Well, you begin to see the transfer value of what you've learned. In other words, you start to see how you could apply what you're learning to every situation in your life. And when you see how you can apply what you're learning to every situation in your life, its potential is what? Literally staggering. That means you are now at the point in which you can see your whole way out of what you're going through, which is what? Give up what you don't want, keep what you do. So what do? You let go of what you don't want, and you keep what you do. Like people say, well, I don't want to let go of that relationship. Keep it. What? Keep it. Right? Whenever I'm talking to somebody, they go, I know I should, but I really don't want to go. I go, keep it. Because nobody's telling you to leave but you. And so if you're really feeling all that much of a conflict about letting it go, don't. Why? He says because it's the obvious thing you should do. Give up what you don't want, keep what you do want. How easy to do. But why? Because if I'm not giving up what I don't want to give up, that's not hard. It's only hard to give up what I don't want to give up. So see how love is so cool in the way we do things. You don't have to give up anything. If you're not ready to give up me, don't give up me. If you're ready to do it, do it. Whatever you are ready to do it when you want to do it. Don't do it when you don't want to do it. See, that's too simple. That's too simple. You don't want to study? Don't. You do want to study? Do it.
Love it. There's such
freedom there. It's that simple. If you can't find time to do it, you don't want to do it. So don't beat yourself up about it. Just don't do it till you get ready to do it. That's all. Sooner or later, you're going to be ready to do it. Don't worry. One day, you're going to be glad to do it. You know, I decided to go vegan. It hasn't been an issue because I wanted to do it. It was an issue when I didn't want to do it and I thought I should do it. Then it was an issue. But now it's not an issue. Because I was ready to do it. Isn't that ridiculous? It really is that way. It really is that way. Okay, so it's easy to do. He says, you need this period of respite. You haven't come as far yet as you think. But when you're ready to go on, this is the good part. When you're ready to go on, this is the good part. You go with what? Mighty companions beside you. Whoa! So when you're trying to get serious and you do let go of the things that's not serving you, that you know they're not serving you, the reward is you will have a lot of people beside you. And you will then rest a while, and then you're going to gather all your mighty companions in, and you won't go on from here alone. So after you do the sorting out and you keep what you do want, let go of what you don't want, you find yourself surrounded by people who are doing what you're doing and want to do it. It's no way that you really change your mind and you don't know anybody that's thinking like you think. Like a lot of times you meet people that go, I've been studying for years, but I just can't meet anybody that's interested in what I'm interested in. You have to get deeper in it.
Yeah.
You're not really in it if you're not attracting anybody else that's interested in it. You know, I met a woman in the bar downtown the other day when I was visiting a friend, and she was totally into all the stuff that I was into. We were drawn to each other. We had a conversation. Come to find out all the stuff that I'm into. And I can tell you time after time after time after time that's happened. When you really change your mind, you're going to meet people who are like you. You recognize each other. You're drawn to each other. So the Course says, now you're going to gather your mighty companions. The next stage is what? A period of unsettling. First you settle, now you're going to unsettle. So what does that mean? It means you are then going to realize you don't really know what's valuable and what's not. All of a sudden you're going to realize, well, I really don't know what's really valuable and what's not really valuable. I don't really know what love really is. The Course says all that you really learn is that you don't want the valueless and you do want the valuable. I admit that much. He says, but your own sorting out was meaningless in teaching you the difference. So you know why it's so hard to sort it out? Because we have such a belief in sacrifice and loss. So it's so central to our way of thinking that it's impossible for us to judge because we believe it, you can lose. And so the Course in Miracles says, you thought you learned willingness. You say, oh, I'm willing. He says, now you don't. Now you see, you don't even know what your willingness is for. I'm willing, but I don't know for what. Right? If I've let go of all the values I've had in the past, now I'm willing to serve or do, but I don't know what. And so the Course in Miracles says you must attain a state that may remain impossible to reach for a long, long time. Now what is that? Here it is. You must learn to lay all judgment aside. How do you do that? You ask only for what you really want. See, if I ask for what I want, I'm no longer judging. Because I'm only judging to decide what to ask for. So at the point that I start asking for love, asking for peace, asking for the truth, I'm really laying judgment aside. Because now I know what I want. And so the Course says, you ask only for what you really want in every circumstance. What is it that you want in every circumstance? Peace, joy, happiness, right? So instead of saying, I want the car so I can have happiness, I would ask for happiness. And then when I'm in the car, I'll be happy. Because I'm happy in the car. I'm not looking for the car to make me happy. I'm not looking for people to make me happy anymore. You know what happens when you no longer look for people to make you happy? You don't have grievances with people anymore. Because all your grievances are coming from your scripts and expectations. So as soon as you let go of your expectations, your grievances drop in your life. So you show me a person that's mad and upset and full of grievances, and you're showing me a control freak. You're showing me somebody that really is trying to control everything and everybody around them. That's why they're miserable. Nobody's acting out this script. I was talking to my relative of mine recently, and she was unhappy. And I was telling her that the only problem that you have in my perception, because I always ask people if I can share it with them. I don't try to give unsolicited advice. Is that everything that she was telling me that was making her unhappy was based on somebody else's behavior changing. And she was naming one thing after another thing after another thing where the person needed to act differently and she would have been happy. And I told her she was setting herself up to never be happy ever. But it's the most common thing that people do, right? If I lose 10 pounds, I'll be happy. You know, and when I get the things I think I want, the question my higher self always say, are you any happier? Really? You really think if you get an air conditioner, you're going to be happy? or whatever the thing is, and then you get it. And then what happens with your ego mind?
There's something else that you
As
want.
quick as it can, it comes up with the next thing that you got to have in order to be happy, right? You know, so when I'm here with you right now, I try to be present with you. Those of you online, I try to be present with you. I'm trying to live in the now. That's what has eluded me right now. I'm with you right now. But if we're sitting here thinking about what we're going to do after the class, you're not present. We're not honoring each other, you know. And if you just focus on somebody in the class because you're attracted to them and it's something you want from them, that you're still not present because you're still thinking about the future. What you hope is going to happen later. So you're still not present, right? So it says that you ask only for what you want in every circumstance, and we're not each step in this direction. What direction? You asking only for what you really want in every circumstance, it would be hard indeed. So what is the question you should ask yourself 100 times a day? What do I want?
God.
What do I want? You said you should ask yourself that 100 times a day. What do I want? What do I really, really, really want? In every situation that you have doubt, you're supposed to say to yourself, what do I want to come of this? What is its purpose? What is it for? Okay, I want to go out with a person. Why? What is the purpose? What is it for? I want this job. What is the purpose? What is it for? I want my relationship with God. What is the purpose? What is it for? If you would take a moment in every situation that you have doubt to ask yourself, what is the purpose? What is it for? You'd be shocked at how few errors you will make in judgment. Just take a minute and go, like somebody wants to go out with you, you say, what for? Freak them out. You want to go out with me? Why? What's for? What for? What do you want to do? Why do you want to go out with me? And if they're stumbling all over their words, then it's something that they wanted you for that they don't want to tell you. Because if it's a legitimate desire, they would go, oh, because I want to study the truth with you.
Oh, yeah.
Right? See what I'm saying? But, I just thought you were cute. You know, why do you want that person? They have pretty eyes. Does that make sense to you? I remember saying it. I remember going, oh, they had beautiful eyes. And they had the most beautiful hair. Great. But they're a serial killer.
Crazy.
So you might want to focus in on the content. You should go, I would like to experience a totally loving, sane being. I would like the experience of being this joyful and beautiful and want to grow and want to evolve and wants to learn how to let go of anger and guilt and grievances and know that oneness with God and spirit. I almost never hear people say that when you ask them what they want in a relationship. I want somebody I can do something with, and we can travel, we can go dancing. Those are cool, but you want to do it with a sane person.
Yeah.
What is the thing I say often? Sane people have bodies too. Okay? Here's the last one. The last one is, and finally, that was good. There is a period of achievement. What? There's a period of achievement. Finally. I love how you said it. Finally. There's a period of achievement. What is the period of achievement? When the course assumes you're not going to know what it's talking about. So whenever you read something, the next sentence explains the sentence before it, the next sentence explains the sentence before it, the next sentence explains the sentence before it. So when you stop to figure out what it's saying, your ego has tricked you. Let me give you an example. There's a period of achievement. What is that? Well, it's when your learning is consolidated. What's that? Well, now what was seen as merely shadows before becomes solid gains to be counted on in all emergencies as well as tranquil times. I can use this truth that I am responsible for how I see things in tranquil times as well as emergencies. In other words, when your learning is consolidated, you don't use the truth in some situations and don't use it in another situation. You become consistent in how you see things in every situation. You don't try to start your car with a key when you leave the class and then an hour from now you try to start it with your ink pen. You're consistent. I go into my pocket for the key every time I go to my car. Do you all do that? You don't go every time. Should I use my key this time, right? So that's how you know when you really know the truth of something. You do it consistently. When you don't do it consistently, an inconsistent person is a dishonest person. Okay, a person that you don't ever know what the hell they expect. Every time you see them, that is not an honest person. Okay, but it doesn't mean they're sinful, guilty, or bad. So it says, indeed, the tranquility is the result. What is tranquility the result of? It's the outcome of honest learning. What is honest learning? Consistency of thought. Honest learning is you fully transferring what you learned to every situation. He says that's the stage of real peace. That's the stage that reflects heaven. He says that's the way that makes the way to heaven open and easy. What is heaven according to the Course? A state of perfect joy and perfect oneness. Okay? And it says, in fact, if you are practicing this consistently, the heaven and the joy and the peace is right here, right now. That's how you know you're practicing it. You're feeling pretty good right here, right now. I have a tendency, when I'm not focused on the truth, to go into depression. With the things that are not happening the way I want them to happen. But I notice when I'm focused on the truth, I'm not depressed.
Right. Me, yeah.
So I put those two things together. Oh, if I want to feel good, I need to focus on the truth.
Yes.
And if I don't want to feel good, then just don't focus on the truth. See, that's simple. But what I used to do was not focus on the truth, feel bad, and then wonder how I was going to feel better by telling myself stuff that wasn't the truth. Right? So the Course in Miracles says that, in fact, the heaven and the peace is here. Who would go anywhere if peace of mind is already complete? If you have peace of mind, if you're really enjoying yourself and you feel fulfilled and you feel happy right here and right now, you're not trying to think of what you're going to do next. You're busy receiving the joy in this moment. And you know what happens if you allow yourself to receive joy in this moment? It will extend to the next moment. And if you let yourself have joy in that moment, it'll extend to the next moment. So when do you lose the joy in each moment? Well, that's the moment that you weren't thinking the truth. You thought truth this moment, you thought truth this moment, you were feeling good. You thought truth this moment, you were feeling good. And in that moment, you thought about what happened to you at work. So you got unhappy when? As soon as you stopped focusing on the truth.
Yeah.
Right? And so the Course in Miracles says, and who would seek to change tranquility for something more desirable? What's more desirable than feeling tranquility? What could be more desirable than feeling complete, total fulfillment all the way through and through on every level? What could be more valuable than that? Acknowledge yourself for hearing this much. Holy Spirit, y'all were awesome. Those of you online, you were awesome. Awesome. So I'm going to do a really quick recap. Then we're going to zoom out there in the lab and see what new things that we're going to give ourselves to learn through, right? Okay. So you all are just complete blessings in my life. Thank you for coming to Earl's Truth Torture Training. I have the audacity to say you deserve to be happy. I have the audacity. How dare you say you deserve joy? For me to say, it's funny. Okay. Those of you online, if you'd like to make a financial expression of appreciation to my full-time teaching ministry, just go to earlpurdy.com and you would be able to do that. Also, I'm available for one-on-one sessions called Clarity Sessions. And the reason why I do these sessions is to show you, but the thing about it though, it doesn't matter what a person shows you, if you don't use it, it's not going to work. Okay? So I can give you some things from over 30 years of working with this stuff, but I guarantee you that it won't work if you don't use it. But I can give you some definite things that will work, and for those who are open to it, I also use my knowledge of astrology and numerology, which was what got me on my spiritual path in the first place, that eventually led me to the Course in Miracles. So do not judge people's individual paths. Everybody's got their individual curriculum. And everyone's got a gift. Another thing the Course taught me was that whatever you've learned, the Holy Spirit can use it for your awakening. So to awaken doesn't mean you have to quit your job, leave everything and everybody around you necessarily. It actually means that you could ask Spirit to use the situation you're already in to wake you up.
Absolutely.
And you could also choose a different situation.
Yeah.
But don't think that you had to leave that situation in order to have joy if you're willing to change your mind.
Wow.
Yeah. When I look back over my life, 90% of the stuff that I went through, if I had just changed my mind, I wouldn't have had to do none of the big changes that I made that were so challenging. And I have to forgive myself. That's what I've noticed, is that when you really start to practice the truth, you think you're going to be forgiving everybody else. But the truth is, who you're going to be forgiving the most is yourself. Yeah. So go to the website, earlpurdy.com, and it explains the services I offer, and I'm available. Do you want freedom? Now, those of you who might like to
do you make it your own? Do you follow your heart? Yeah. This moment is your home.
listen to this.
Do you see love all around you?
Do you see love all around you?
Compassion fill your soul and feeling all your sensations.
Now listen.
We are free and we are whole. And so our thoughts create our freedom. Freedom. Rock with the wavelength. Rock with the wavelength. Yeah. Freedom.
Okay. That's Reverend Yolanda. You go to yolanda.net. Now listen. First stage is a period of undoing. It looks like things are being taken away, but you are initially seeing that it's not valuable anymore. It might look like a relationship, a person, or a situation is being taken away, but you're just seeing it's not valuable for you to go through that anymore. So the first stage is you should say, all changes are helpful. All changes are helpful. Then the second stage is a period of sorting out. And that means that you tell yourself that everything in your life was helpful, and you're going to see what's helping you and what's hampering you, what's taking you toward love and what's taking you toward fear. Got that section. Then it says the third stage is a period of relinquishment. So when you finally decide what's valuable and what's valueless and what you need to keep and what you need to let go of, then you are going to let it go. But if you're trying to give up something that you still see as valuable, that you don't want to give up, then you're going to have enormous conflict. How do you resolve that conflict? You keep what you do want, you let go of what you don't want. You keep what you do want, you let go of what you don't want. The fourth stage that you go through is a period of settling down. That's when you start to see how true the truth is and how you can apply it to every situation in your life. And that's when you really give up what you don't want and you keep what you do. You haven't come as far as you think, but when you're in the fourth stage, you start to gain your mighty companions.
Yeah.
You start to draw other people to you that's going to share your goal. I love that.
Me too.
Then the next stage you learn you don't really know what's valueless and you don't really know what's valuable because you have too much of an idea of sacrifice in your mind. So you lay your judgment aside by starting to ask for what you really want. What you really want in every circumstance. And when you do that, you come to a period of achievement. Because then you see you can apply your truth to every situation and circumstance. You know stuff like you're never upset for the reason you think. You know you're entitled to miracles. You know you're sustained by the love of God. You know there's nothing to fear. You know your thoughts are giving everything you see all the meaning it has for you. You know you have a spiritual guide. You know God is in your corner. You know you're not alone. And you start to apply that truth to every situation in your life, and you watch your life transform right before you. And that's why I like to say this. I am entitled to miracles. 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 You are entitled to miracles. You are entitled to miracles. Like Oprah said to cars. You are entitled to miracles. And you are entitled to miracles. And you are entitled to miracles. Would you give yourself some energy for you being entitled to miracles? Yeah. I love you. Thank you for coming in. Tuesday night on Facebook Live. The Way of Master is 7 o'clock Mountain Time. Online only. And then Thursday night, A Course of Love at Thursdays at 7 p.m. You all are a blessing in my dream and in my life, and give up what you don't want.
Yeah.
Keep what you do. You deserve to be happy. Hugs are available. I appreciate y'all.
Love you, Raj.
Love you too. Y'all awesome. Mighty companions online, I love you. You are awesome.